Jacques Siri was an indigenous woman who lived on the banks of the Great Orinoco River. One day, she went out, as usual, to gather fruits, tubers, and roots. From a distance, she heard the screams of a woman and, moments later, gunshots that made the animals and birds fly away in fear, just like the birds in the nearby trees. Suddenly, she sensed the footsteps of people rapidly approaching her location. Quickly, she hid in the bushes and saw 3 armed white men. She hurried in the direction where she had heard the shots. What she saw left her completely perplexed. On the ground lay a white woman with a small child whom she held close, as if to protect her. The woman was still breathing. Jacques Siri approached her, trying to help, but she was already in her final moments. The woman managed to whisper the name, Raoul, slowly before her last breath. Jacques Siri realized it was the name of the one who had shot her. The woman took the crying child in her arms, who had a silver plate around their neck. One of the bullets had pierced the woman's body and almost miraculously stopped at that small metal plate, saving her life. Jacques Siri took the boy and comforted him, nursing him with her own milk, as she still breastfed her own young children. She looked at him tenderly, and at that moment, their hearts connected forever. The woman took him to her village, deep in the most inaccessible part of the jungle, as the white man increasingly forced them further inland. When the surprise reached the village, alarm spread. They had never seen a white person so up close and simultaneously so vulnerable. The white man had only used violence and robbery as a means to dominate the jungle and its inhabitants. Blood was shed, and the pain and death it brought to the jungle peoples were immense. The presence of a white baby in the heart of their village aroused the strongest feelings of fear, resentment, rejection, and hatred, and the little white boy represented all the bad and negative things their skin color reminded them of. He was part of the white enemy and should not survive. Indigenous blood had to be avenged, and that child had to pay. Would they not be as bad and cruel as the whites? Would they be as ruthless as them? Would they not be better than them? The woman spoke with a strong and stern voice, filled with courage and emotion, making the indigenous people understand that the little boy was not guilty of his color, just as they were not guilty of their origin or appearance. Jacques Siri adopted the rescued boy and named him Canik, which means rescued from death, as the silver plate reminded her of the miraculous way he escaped death's clutches. Jacques Siri became a widow when her husband was attacked by a jaguar. She had 2 children, and now little Canik was part of her family. She raised Canik and her children as if she had given birth to all 3. When her other children asked why Canik was so different from them, with his fair skin and eyes, she said the boy was born at dawn, right at sunrise, when the first rays of the sun bathed the jungle. Canik grew up as one of those indigenous people, with their attire, customs, beliefs, and opinions. He became a knowledgeable expert of the jungle, a skilled warrior and hunter. He loved his home and was very happy in it. Jacques Siri, Canik, and her other children's lives continued in the normality of being fully adapted to their environment. Until one day, explosions were heard around the indigenous village. The white man had arrived and was determined to drive them out of their homes. The explosions occurred because a new gold mine was to be exploited, and a handful of machines and metal extraction elements arrived at the site. The entire village gathered there, and at the forefront were men with their weapons. Canik's white and muscular body stood out immediately. The white man responsible for the earth-moving and machinery, upon seeing the event with amazement and curiosity, approached and, using an interpreter, told the elders that they wanted to see Canik up close. That approach was stunning to him. Carlos gradually approached Canik, and when he got close, he couldn't believe what his eyes were seeing. The 2 men looked like mirror images. The resemblance between them was astonishing and left no doubt that there was a relationship between them. The man glanced at the silver piece around the young man's neck and asked him to show it. When Canik showed it to him, he read the initial inscription. The initials were CJ. It was his son, Carlos Jose, whom he believed had died. Jacques Siri recounted the story of how she found Canik, how some men killed his wife, and everything that happened afterward. The name Raoul belonged to a former partner who wanted to set his wife aside because she disagreed with her husband's projects in the virgin jungle, and Cannick's father was led to believe that the indigenous people had killed his wife and son. He made many efforts but never managed to find their whereabouts. He developed deep resentment for these peoples and always fought to expropriate their lands and riches. At that moment, the mineral extraction operations were suspended. That man had received a great life lesson. Those he so hated, despised, those whom he had caused so much harm, those who had always been objects of his prejudice, these very people had rescued, cared for, and raised his own son, and now, thanks to them, he could embrace him once again and say how much he loved him. The jungle found in that man one of its most fervent defenders, just like the indigenous peoples. The two worlds turned towards each other, learning to respect one another. Did you enjoy Jacques, Siri, and Cannick's story? Would you have done the same? Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and leave a like. A warm hug, and see you next time.